All right, so we are live apparently. And I'm really looking forward to this time that I get to spend with you guys. And big congrats to the Partner Hacker Group for all the great work that they've done. I've got what I hope is an exciting conversation, exciting presentation, sharing some information with you. This is a presentation that I've done a number of times, but normally in a longer format. So I'm looking forward to just kind of getting to it, kind of hitting the nuggets and sharing those with you. And I definitely encourage us to continue the conversation offline. So let's jump in. So today's goals, I like to just kind of share what I plan to get out of today, what I plan to share over the next 25 minutes that we have together. And that is kind of sharing some gold nuggets. This presentation, as I mentioned, is typically a 60 to 90-minute presentation that I do for boards and other product organizations to figure out how can they leverage product partnerships, how can they leverage the power of partnership as a means for growth. But what I've done is gone through this presentation and I've cut out a lot of the transitions, cut out some of the backstory, and I've just gotten straight to hopefully the golden nuggets that we're all here to listen to and to learn. Product partnering is different. It is absolutely different. I think, generally speaking, whenever we see posts on LinkedIn or some other form of conversations, our brains typically, for most people, goes to kind of this channel realm. But product partnerships are vastly different. We're going to be talking about that quite a bit. Past as well as living examples, kind of live flying examples. There's nothing better than reality being right in front of us, and so we'll be looking at some of the past as well as the future of partnerships and product partnerships in particular. Who steers the roadmap? So all of us that are in product or we've been in product, we help to support product. We all know it's about the roadmap. And the big question is who gets to steer that? How are decisions made? And that's always a lively conversation. We'll definitely be hitting that before we wrap up. And last but not least, stick around with me, and we're going to give you a QR code where you'll have an opportunity to get a course to learn more. As I mentioned right now, I only have 25 minutes to share some information with you, but it obviously goes much deeper than that. So for those that are interested in continuing on, I want to give you the opportunity to do that. So just a quick background with me. So I call it my product partnership boot camp. So where did I learn that? Well, I kind of cut my teeth in partnering at Sprint in the late 90s at their world headquarters in Kansas City. So if you've ever been a Sprint customer or ever spoken with or communicated to a Sprint customer, odds are those products have my fingerprints on it somewhere. Probably one of the most educational times that I had at Sprint was whenever I ran Sprint TV, ran the partnering products, the partnership operations for Sprint TV. It was 72 different products and 72 different partners, excuse me, and $100 million product that was there. And it was an amazing education for me and for the group and for the team. We also submitted several different patents. One of those patents with Sprint TV was accepted, which just kind of adds to the experience of working in this realm. Um, but I'm going to just kind of just keep going and keep diving into here. Hopefully, we'll have a couple questions at the end, or time for some questions at the end. If we don't, I want to make sure that I have the opportunity to connect with you. So please feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or some other ways that we can get your questions answered. We can just continue the conversation. But as I mentioned, product partnerships, different ball game. And if somebody made me kind of put a number to it of whenever we think generally about partnerships, what percentage is more sort of channel related, where it's more revenue focused versus product building or solutions building? If I had to put a number to it, I would say 85%. 85% is more channel. About 15% is going to be more on the build side, more on the product, that solution side. So I think whenever we hear statistics or we talk about partnering, I guess maybe it's human nature to try to grab this kind of one size fits all. But everybody everybody in this presentation knows there's no such thing as a one size fits all. And so one of those components that we look at is what I call the partnering continuum. And if you've ever heard me, share any information in one of these sessions or any of our courses, I talk a lot about this continuum of partnerships. So on the left side being more transactional in nature, and the right side being highly collaborative, where we have the opportunity for truly strategic partnerships. One of the most overused words in business, I would argue. But this left side, I would say, is more kind of kin to channel relationships or revenue focused relationships, right? So, referral, affiliate, those sorts of relationships. And as we move over to the right side, we truly see the opportunity for strategic partnerships. In those cases, they open up the opportunities for exponential growth. They're a longer term view, a lot more moving parts. Whenever organizations are working together and typically connecting technologies, there's a lot more things that can go wrong. There's a lot more coordination that needs to happen. So it's higher risk, but also higher reward. And so whenever we leverage that partnership for on the strategic side, it truly opens this opportunity for a competitive advantage and opens this opportunity for exponential growth. Whenever we break it down, there's three ways that businesses can grow: organic, we're going to build it ourselves; acquisition, we're going to get out the checkbook and buy our way; or the third way is through partnerships. We're going to collaborate for that. And I think where we are in today's high-tech economy, globalized economy, there's literally more opportunities today to partner with organizations, complementary organizations, to put together killer solutions. Look at any statistics and they will all back that up. So this kind of begs the question as we dig into products and we think about how we're going to advance our solutions. Where do we invest? Right, it's kind of the age-old solution. Well, we need to do a level set here on the front end, and that is the customer. I mean, nobody owns the customer. Even if we say we're working in subscriptions and we have that customer for a month or say a year, at the end of the day, nobody owns the customer, and the customer always gets to win. Sometimes it takes them a day, sometimes it takes a month, sometimes it takes a year. It may take 10 years. The customers in the end will always get what they want. If there's one thing that I learned 13 years running product partnerships at Sprint, the customers will eventually get what they want, because as soon as somebody offers that to them, they will move. The future is faster than you think. I love the content that's put out by Singularity University. There's literally a book and a white paper that's titled "The Future is Faster Than You Think." And so, as I think back a decade ago or even 2 decades ago, in business and corporate America, corporations across the world, um, first mover advantage really wasn't that much of an advantage. You can almost kind of see it play out, and then you could decide if you want to get in, you want to play, and you could almost always catch up. I would argue that first mover advantage is becoming more real now than it ever has before. But again, the great news is you don't have to go it alone. You don't have to own it. You don't have to build it, and you don't have to buy it. You can partner. You can leverage the power of partnership. We'll be talking about that a lot more in the next 20 minutes. Innovation is a trade off. Um, Innovation is messy. Innovation is very expensive, typically quite expensive. And so, frankly, most companies, I would argue, don't do it well. McKinsey put a study out a couple years ago. 86% of CEOs and executives said that they do not believe that their organization is proficient whenever it comes to innovation. But innovation is really the lifeblood of all organizations. And without great innovation, those products and eventually those companies will die. And we will show some examples. Your ICP, so your ideal customer profile. And so something that I like to impress upon people and have them think about is, think about 10 years ago. Your solution that you have today, think back 10 years ago, 2012. How did your customers solve the problem that you're helping them solve today? Was it through spreadsheets? Was it through Google Docs? Was it through Word docs? Was it through other systems that were maybe a little bit more clunky, or perhaps the solution just didn't even exist? So as you think about, how your customers solved their solution 10 years ago, now I want you to think about 10 years into the future. How do you think customers are going to use solutions to solve that problem? What's it going to look like? Really, that's the challenge and the opportunity that we have today. If we can get a pretty clear picture in our mind, have that vision for what that product looks like 10 years from now, and the famous Gretzky quote, why was he so good? Well, he skated to where the puck is going to be. And so if we get a feel for where our solution needs to be, where what our customers are expecting 10 years from now, that helps us to start position ourselves for where that place is. Another thing I like to say, and kind of a famous quote, um, that I like to share. So Steve Jobs, many years ago, said that he says no to 1,000 good ideas, so he can say yes to one great idea. And so we like to say, you be ready to say no to 10 either partners or product ideas, so you can say yes to one. And people that spend a lot of time in the channel, whenever you tell them that they have to say no to 10 partners so they can say yes to one, well, the channel is built on numbers and it's built on automation, it's built on scale. But whenever it comes to product partnerships, oftentimes we're single source. You have one organization that's going to fulfill a critical purpose for you, and if they fail, you fail. And that's super, super critical. But what that requires is a very different playbook. Again, channel partnerships, product partnerships, vastly, vastly different. This is another thing that I love to think about and to press executives to consider. Several decades ago, Gary Keller, one of the co-founders of Keller Williams, the largest residential real estate company in the world, over 200,000 agents, he locked all of his executives in a room and said, "We're not leaving until until we describe, until we identify the company that's going to put us out of business. And then we're going to build a plan to become that company that's going to put us out of business." And then the big shocker to his executives, he said, "It's not a real estate company. It's going to be a tech company. What do we need to build so that we can continue to grow?" I challenge you to continue to think about, your product and your product suite, your solution suite this way. What is the company that might put you out of business? So whenever I think of product development, there's really kind of two different ways that I see this. One is kind of the product out versus the customer in, and I would argue that most organizations that I see, they take this incremental approach where they have their product and they figure out how to iterate that product forward. Right? They listen to customer complaints, customer suggestions, and they figure out ways to iterate that product forward. But another approach that's out there is to be customer centric. Go directly to your customer. Don't necessarily look at what they buy. Don't just look at the recommendations, the suggestions, or the complaints that they make, because they're only using what's available to them. Instead, clear the slate. Don't even consider what your solution does. Clear the slate and ask your ICP, your ideal customers, ask them, what does that easy button look like? What would the perfect solution look like for you? And think about building your solution that way. Build your solution backwards, not looking at what your product is today, what your service is today. Then how do you incrementally push that forward? If your customers don't have access to these new technologies, they would never use them, and they would never even know necessarily to ask. So let me unpack that a little bit more. And I want to give you some different examples of what happens whenever people take and companies take more of this product forward approach. So it happened to Borders in September of 2010, happened to Blockbuster February of 2011, and it happened to Kodak in 2012. So what is that? Well, that's the date that all of them filed bankruptcy. And so with Borders, whenever they talked to their customers, they went into their, hundreds and hundreds of stores, almost 20,000 employees they had at their height. What did the customer say they wanted? Well, they want to make sure that the books are on the shelves when they come in. They want to make sure that best-selling authors come in and do book signings. They want to have comfortable couches to sit in. They want to be able to bring in different coffees and sit down, kind of camp out and read. With Blockbuster, what did they have? Right, they had these physical stores, thousands of them across the United States. People would come in and rent DVDs. They would rent Blu-rays. And so, what were their complaints? What were they trying to fix? Well, the executives wanted to make sure that their best customers had the opportunity to reserve these new releases that came out, and they wanted to have loyalty programs. The third example that we have here is Kodak. So whenever Kodak listened to their customers, what did their customers say? What were the executives at Kodak trying to bring? Well, how can we make these physical pictures print faster, have more vibrant colors? How can we, have better sizes so they would fill different photo albums? Well, is that really what customers want? So now let's kind of think about this and kind of spin it around and ask, what is the winning approach? And so I'm a huge fan of the work of the late Clayton Christensen. He is a Harvard professor, business professor. Anything that he has written, do yourself a favor and take a spin through it. If you've ever heard, and I think all of us have, the word disruptive in business, well, Clayton popularized that. And so he said that customers don't want products or services. They want simple, reliable solutions. And one of the kind of famous quotes that he says is, people go to Lowe's, Home Depot, they buy a drill, they buy a quarter-inch drill bit. They don't want the drill, they don't want the drill bit, but they need a quarter-inch hole in the wall at their house. And that's the easiest way to get that job done. But if somebody were to come along and charge for putting a hole in your wall, quarter inch, right where you want it, for a few bucks, most people would take that. But in business, I think, we look at these correlations and not necessarily causations. And we look at these profiles of different customers and we say, well, Mark went to Lowe's, he bought a drill, he bought a quarter-inch drill bit. Apparently, he loves tools. So I'm going to try to sell him tools. Ask my wife. I hate tools. If I had an easy button, if I had a better way to get that quarter-inch hole rather than spending $100 on a drill and a drill bit, I would do that. And that's exactly what Christensen tries to, impress upon business leaders is think about what the customer is trying to solve for and become maniacally focused on understanding that. And it's called the job to be done. So I want you to think about, your solution set. What is the job that your customers are trying to solve for? And don't even consider the limitations that you have in time, in what your solution does today, in your resources. Take all of that off the table and just purely focus on what your customer is trying to solve for. And then figure out how to put that solution together. Really, what am I talking about? Ecosystems, right? Ecosystems, the huge buzzword that we are hearing today, and so much. But as I think back to my career, the late '90s, the ecosystem of the mobile phone was one of the biggest and arguably one of the most successful ecosystems to be put together. That's exactly what we were constantly asking ourselves. So let's go back to our Borders, Blockbuster, and Kodak example. What did the Borders executives think their customers wanted? More comfortable couches, best-selling authors to come in, do signings. They want to make sure these best-selling books were on the shelves. But really, customers just wanted to read. And who proved that? Well, Amazon. Amazon will put the book on your door the next day through Kindle. They'll let you download it in about 10 seconds. Or if you're like me and you want the audiobook, go get the audiobook. Hit Audible. 10 seconds later, you're listening to it. Customers just wanted to consume content. Blockbuster. What did Blockbuster think? Well, people want to come in, join loyalty programs, be able to reserve DVDs and Blu-rays. What do customers really want? They just want to watch movies. And who proved that out? Netflix, right? Started off by mailing these DVDs to us, but that was just a stopgap. That was a technology stopgap until we could get broadband to homes and to phones to where we could use Netflix anywhere today. Kodak. This one's probably the most interesting, I think. What did Kodak think people wanted? Well, more vibrant pictures. They wanted them faster. They wanted it cleaner. But really, people want to capture memories. What put Kodak out of business? The digital camera? Who invented the digital camera? Steven Sazon. Who did Steven work for? Kodak. Steven was a product manager. He was a product lead at Kodak. Kodak owned all of the patents that eventually had Kodak go out of business. Um, we need to understand, what is the job to be done? What is the easy button for our customers? Let me kind of push this a little bit further. Taxi companies. My wife and I just a few months ago were in New York, right? No shortage of taxis. What do taxi executives think the job to be done is? Simple, transportation. But the problem is it stops there for them. But as we know, Lyft, Uber, what is the true job to be done? Well, of course, it's transportation, but what else? How about a clean car? How about a fair rate? How about a timely pickup? The ability to contact the driver, no cash transactions, picture of the driver. You want safety. Do you want to know the arrival time, electronic receipts? You want to have a mobile app that manages the whole experience. And I could go on to probably 20 or 30 different pieces here. And so the job to be done is not only a functional piece, but it's also a social and an emotional piece, which Clayton Christensen dives in multiple books that he's written over the years. So the new formula for growth. So what do we need to do? What does this look like? Absolutely obsess. I would say maniacally obsess over your customers' challenges. And whoever builds, the right solutions for your customers is the one that's going to win at the end of the day. But again, there's three ways to do this: organic, acquisition, partnering. No longer are the days that we have to do this alone. We have the opportunities to partner for this. Every company is a technology company, right? Well, we've been hearing this. Well, I would say in 5 years from now, whenever we hear this presentation, we're going to be saying every company is a software company. We hear software is eating the world, right? Mark Andreessen, absolutely true. Low code, no code. It's about information shared, data moving, connecting. This is what is really going to be bringing the ecosystem to life. Leading companies balance profit and innovation. Again, we said that innovation is expensive. It's messy. Frankly, a lot of large companies, I would say most large companies, are not good at it. But you have to find that balance. Whenever we think of the most disruptive, to go back to Christensen's his coined phrase, whenever you think about the most disruptive technologies that's come in, most of those they do not come from the Fortune 500, and there's a reason why. Must make sound and timely decisions. Truly, the future is faster than we think. And, the first mover advantage, I think, has more advantage now than it has before. When companies make bad moves, I think the pain of making those bad moves is just going to be magnified. Look no further than my employer that I moved away from 10 years ago, Sprint. They're now a part of T-Mobile. T-Mobile used to be a distant fourth. And, whenever companies don't adjust with the times, they end up being left behind. And finally, the biggest easy button wins. That's the end of the day. The customers are always going to win. If there's one thing I can press upon you, it's just a matter of time, but the customers are always going to win. So let me share one quick thought here before we wrap up. And I loved some of the words that were shared last week by Isaac and Jared, and that is, a lot of partnering professionals that are in the education space, they don't always get the opportunity to practice what they preach. They had a career doing the partnering thing, and then they, kind of share that knowledge. But one of the things that I love about what we're doing here at Partnernomics is we run programs, we run partnering programs. And so at our core, right, we help partnership professionals achieve operational excellence through the implementation of our proprietary methodology, working with Fortune 500s all the way down, literally all across the globe. And so with our methodology, it's really to help organizations operationalize, their partnership function. And over the past 8 years, it's been using different tools, literally 20 different tools. Yes, these are spreadsheets. Yes, these are documents that organizations would use to eventually build their playbook. So we practice what we preach. So over the last several years, we've gone out to our customers and said, "What does your easy button look like? What How can we make your lives more enjoyable?" That's a phrase that I love to share. And so what we learned from our research is that 77% of our customers use Salesforce. What is an organization's, record of truth? What is their source of truth? It's their CRM. And so for the past 16 months, we've worked with our partner, iLight Solutions, to build Partnernomics IQ, which is a Salesforce managed package that allows organizations to operationalize their partnering function. And so, not only do we, run and build a channel program, have our relationships with affiliates, with referral, but we also have technology based partnerships. And so iOLite is obviously a key piece of that. Again, there's three ways to grow: organic, acquisition, and partner. And there's more opportunities to leverage the power of partnership than there ever has been before. And last but not least, as promised, I think we came screeching in here about right on time. I want to give everyone an opportunity to get a Partnering Foundations course. It's a 6-hour course, all video based on our partnernomics.com platform, absolutely free. Just scan this QR code, it'll take you to a page, dump in your email address, and then we'll toss you a coupon code. No credit card required. We'll dump you a coupon code for you to jump into that course and get it absolutely free. I absolutely welcome the opportunity to connect with anyone, to continue the conversation on LinkedIn. And I really appreciate the time. It's been great getting a chance to share with you today.